Commander Sarah Chen stood at attention before the massive doors of the Galactic Assembly's Grand Chamber, trying to maintain her composure. After centuries of isolation, humanity was finally taking its place among the stars. As Earth's chief negotiator, the weight of her species' future rested squarely on her shoulders. The doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing a vast circular chamber. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the tiered seats, their varied forms illuminated by the pale blue light streaming through the crystalline dome above. At the chamber's center stood Kirax, the Assembly's chief diplomatic officer, his iridescent scales shifting colors as he turned to face her. Commander Chen, Kirax's translator, rendered his clicking speech into smooth English. "Welcome to the heart of galactic civilization. We have long awaited this moment." Sarah advanced into the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The assembled delegates studied her with everything from multiple compound eyes to sensory tentacles. She felt like a specimen under a microscope, but kept her stride confident and purposeful. "Honorable delegates," she began, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity comes before you not as supplicants, but as equals seeking partnership. We offer our innovation, our determination, and our unique perspective to strengthen the Assembly." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Sarah caught glimpses of approval, skepticism, and something darker in various alien expressions. Kirax raised his upper limbs for silence. "Your species has shown remarkable progress," he acknowledged. "However, there are conditions for membership that must be discussed privately. Would you join me in my office?" Sarah followed Kirax through winding corridors, her tactical training noting every detail. The architecture was beautiful, but designed to disorient visitors. The few staff they passed seemed unusually tense. In his office, Kirax's professional demeanor slipped. "Commander, I must warn you. The Assembly is not what it appears. There are factions who see humanity as a threat to be controlled, rather than an ally to be welcomed." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The Assembly's leadership has become corrupt. They don't want partners, they want vassals. The membership conditions include accepting oversight that would effectively end Earth's autonomy. Those who resist—" He glanced at a wall of commemorative plaques, each marking a species joining of the Assembly. Sarah noticed several were conspicuously dusty, as if deliberately ignored. "How many others have they subjugated?" she asked, anger building beneath her diplomatic facade. "Too many, but humanity's advancement has them frightened. Your species achieved in centuries what took others millennia. They fear you'll discover their methods of control, their secret technologies. They're right to be afraid." A subtle movement caught Sarah's eye, a shadow where none should be. In one fluid motion, she grabbed Kirax and pulled him down as an energy beam sizzled through the space where his head had been. "Assassination protocol initiated," announced a mechanical voice as panels in the walls slid open, revealing security drones. "Containment of information breach authorized." Sarah's combat training took over. She flipped the massive desk onto its side for cover, pulling her ceremonial sidearm, which contained very unceremonial modifications. "I don't suppose you have a back way out of here." Kirax clicked in what her translator rendered as bitter amusement. "Of course. The corrupt always ensure their own escape routes." He pressed a hidden panel, revealing a narrow passage. "But they'll expect that. Perhaps it's time for something more human." Sarah grinned, checking her weapon's charge. "How do you feel about making a scene?" What followed would become legend in Assembly records, a human and a high-ranking Assembly official fighting their way through the heart of galactic governance, exposing decades of corruption with every security system they hijacked, every database they downloaded. Sarah's combat skills and Kirax's inside knowledge proved a devastating combination. They emerged onto a public concourse, alarms blaring behind them. Hundreds of citizens from dozens of species watched in shock as security forces surrounded them. "Citizens of the Assembly," Sarah's voice boomed through hijacked public address systems, "your leadership has betrayed you. They've enslaved peaceful species, suppressed technological advancement, and murdered those who discovered the truth. But no more. Humanity will not bow to tyrants. And neither should you. The crowd's shock turned to anger as evidence streamed across public displays. Proof of the assembly's crimes downloaded during their escape. Security forces found themselves facing not just two fugitives, but a crowd of outraged citizens. As riots erupted across the station, Sarah and Kirax slipped away to her diplomatic shuttle. She sent a heavily encrypted message to Earth Command. First contact protocol compromised. Recommend immediate implementation of Phoenix contingency. The galaxy needs a revolution, and humanity's going to light the fire. Kirax studied her with multiple eyes. You knew, didn't you? You came prepared for treachery. Sarah secured her harness as the shuttle broke away from the station. Let's just say humanity learned long ago to hope for the best but prepare for the worst. The assembly thought they could control us. They're about to learn why that was a mistake. Behind them, the first ships of the assembly's defense fleet began to give chase, but Sarah wasn't worried. Earth's apparent diplomatic mission had been cover for positioning assets throughout assembly space. The revolution was already beginning. The real question was, how many oppressed species would join them once they realized freedom was possible? The shuttle's computer chirped a warning as energy weapons began targeting them. Sarah's smile held no humor. Time to show them how humans fight back. The news of Sarah Chen's escape from the assembly spread across galactic networks like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, oppressed species watched leaked footage of a human standing up to their overlords. Hope, dangerous and infectious, began to take root. Sarah's shuttle rendezvoused with the Earth vessel Defiant, hidden in the chromosphere of a red giant. Captain Maya Rodriguez, Sarah's longtime friend, waited in the hangar bay as the shuttle touched down. You certainly know how to make an entrance, Maya said, embracing her. Earth Command is in chaos. Half want to declare war immediately, half want to sue for peace. Peace isn't an option anymore. Sarah gestured to Kirax. Show them what we found. The Assembly's secret archives painted a horrifying picture. Species that resisted were subjected to engineered plagues, their planet's resources stripped, their populations relocated to labor centers. Advanced civilizations were sabotaged from within, their technologies stolen or suppressed. The Assembly wasn't just corrupt. It was systematically preventing any species from growing strong enough to challenge its rule. There's more, Kirax added, his scales dark with shame. They're particularly interested in humans because you're immune to their primary method of control. He extended a data crystal. This contains information about the compliance protocol. Neural technology hidden in seemingly beneficial medical treatments. But human brains reject the implants. Maya's expression hardened. How many species? 17 currently under direct control. Dozens more partially affected. The Assembly presents itself as a democratic federation, but it's an empire built on invisible chains. Alarms blared through the Defiant. Multiple vessels emerging from hyperspace. The tactical officer reported. Assembly signatures. They're launching fighters. They tracked us. Sarah moved to the tactical station. We need to broadcast this evidence before they can stop us. The Defiance transmitters don't have enough range, Maya said. Sarah smiled. No, but the Assembly's own network does. Kirax, remember that backdoor you showed me? The battle that followed would be remembered as the spark that ignited the Galactic Revolution. The Defiant, a single Earth vessel, danced through the Assembly fleet's formation. While their enemies expected them to flee, they instead charged straight for the nearest comm relay. Their weapons are optimized against their usual targets, Sarah observed, watching enemy fire dissipate against the Defiant's shields. They never considered humans would develop different defensive technologies. They took hits, but Earth's engineers had built well. The Defiant reached the relay. As assembly ships moved to surround them, Kirax interfaced with the communications array. The truth of the Assembly's tyranny began broadcasting on every frequency, in every language across every world in range. Signal is repeating through the network, Kyrax reported. They cannot stop it now. The Assembly fleet's formation faltered as their own crews saw the evidence. On multiple ships, security forces found themselves facing rebellious crews. The compliance protocol had never been used on military personnel. The Assembly feared it might compromise their effectiveness in combat. That decision now proved fatal to their control. The first Assembly ship to defect was the cruiser Dawn's Light, its captain declaring for the rebellion on an open channel. Others followed, and soon the remaining loyal Assembly vessels retreated in disarray. But victory came with a price. The Defiance engines were crippled, life support failing on multiple decks. As emergency repairs began, Sarah received an urgent message from Earth. The Assembly had activated sleeper agents on every human world. The war for freedom was beginning. We knew this wouldn't be easy, Sarah told her assembled crew and their new allies. The Assembly has had centuries to entrench their power, but they've never faced humanity before, and they've never dealt with truly free people fighting back. Today, we've proven they can be heard. Today, we've given hope to every enslaved species in the galaxy. And tomorrow, she smiled grimly. Tomorrow, we show them why you should never back humanity into a corner. Across the galaxy, the Assembly's leadership gathered in emergency session. Their carefully maintained system of control was unraveling. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They'd united the oppressed species against their overlords. This Chen must be eliminated, High Counselor Vex declared, along with anyone who stands with her. But looking at the fear in his fellow leaders' eyes, he wondered if it was already too late. The humans had achieved in days what no other species had managed in centuries. They'd exposed the truth, and truth, like hope, was a weapon that could not be unforged. On the Defiance Bridge, Sarah watched reports flood in from across known space. Rebellions erupting on dozens of worlds. Assembly control centers overwhelmed. And everywhere, humans were helping lead the charge, their resistance to the compliance protocol making them natural leaders in the fight for freedom. The Assembly still has powerful weapons in reserve, Kyrax warned. Secret technologies, hidden fleets. They will not fall easily. Good, Sarah replied. Humanity does its best work when the odds seem impossible. Now let's go help topple an empire. The Defiant limped towards the nearest friendly port, its crew already planning their next strike. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was helping write its new future, one act of defiance at a time. 3 months after the rebellion began, the Defiance crew gathered around a holographic display of Assembly space. Red markers showed Assembly strongholds, while green highlighted liberated systems. Sarah Chen studied the shifting battle lines with intense focus. The Assembly's falling back to their core systems, she reported to the assembled human and alien commanders. But they're not defeated. They're consolidating their forces. The Assembly's response to the rebellion had been brutal. Worlds that revolted faced orbital bombardment. Entire species were threatened with extinction, but their iron-fisted tactics had only fueled the resistance. Earth led the charge, sharing military technology and tactical expertise with their allies. Human ships, immune to Assembly control signals, spearheaded attacks on key facilities. Human scientists worked with freed alien specialists to develop countermeasures against Assembly weapons. Their next target will be the Proxima shipyards, Kyrax predicted, his scales shifting to warning colors. Without those facilities, the rebellion's fleet can't grow. Maya Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Combined Fleet, nodded grimly. Then we'll make our stand there. The Assembly thinks they know human warfare. They're wrong. The rebellion had learned to fight smart rather than fair. While the Assembly massed its forces for traditional space battles, human-led strike teams infiltrated their supply lines. Freed slaves sabotaged Assembly production. Former Assembly officers like Kyrax provided crucial intelligence. But the Assembly still held one crucial advantage: the compliance protocol. Though humans were immune, billions of other species remained under its influence. The rebellion scientists worked tirelessly to develop a cure, but time was running out. The battle for Proxima began at dawn. The assembly arrived with overwhelming force, hundreds of capital ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their commanders expected another hit-and-run attack from the rebels. Instead, they found themselves facing something unprecedented. Sarah had studied assembly tactics for months. They relied on strict protocols, carefully planned maneuvers executed with machine-like precision, so she gave them chaos. Rebel ships darted through their formation in seemingly random patterns. Civilian vessels turned out to be disguised warships. Asteroid fields concealed missile platforms. Every assembly attempt to impose order on the battle was met with wild, unpredictable responses. Humans call it jazz warfare, Sarah explained to her alien allies. Like the music, structured improvisation. We know the framework, but every performance is unique. The assembly's rigid command structure couldn't adapt fast enough. Their neat formations dissolved into confusion. Ships firing at rebels hit their own allies. Communication channels overwhelmed with conflicting orders. But victory came at a terrible cost. The Defiant took a direct hit to its bridge. Maya was severely wounded. Dozens of rebel ships were destroyed. Even as the assembly retreated in disarray, Sarah knew they had only bought time. In the battle's aftermath, she found Kyriax in the ship's medical bay, monitoring Maya's recovery. The assembly's already adapting, he warned. Next time, they'll be ready for our tactics. Then we'll come up with new ones. Sarah's voice was firm. That's what humans do. We adapt faster. A junior officer burst into the medical bay. Commander, our scientists, they've done it. They've cracked the compliance protocol. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source, human music. Dr. Helen Park, a neurologist with a background in music therapy, discovered that certain frequencies could disrupt the protocol's neural patterns. Combined with targeted electromagnetic pulses, they could potentially free billions from assembly control. But we'll need to broadcast it from the assembly's own network, Dr. Park explained. Their comm relays are specifically tuned to interface with the protocol. Sarah looked at the casualty reports from Proxima. Then, at Maya's unconscious form, the price of freedom was already staggeringly high. But the alternative was eternal slavery for countless species. Then we'll give them a concert they'll never forget, she said. Time to plan our final offensive. Across the galaxy, the rebellion prepared for its greatest gambit. The assembly's leaders, sensing the tide turning, retreated to their most secure fortress. They never imagined that their enemies would dare attack the very heart of their empire. They were about to learn that nothing was beyond human daring when freedom was at stake. The assembly's fortress world of Terminus hung like a dark jewel in space, its surface a maze of defenses and security systems. From the bridge of a captured assembly cruiser, Sarah Chen watched the planet's defense grid shimmer with lethal energy. Identification codes transmitted, Kyrax reported. They're clearing us for approach. The rebel strike team had spent weeks preparing for this mission. Their ship carried real assembly officers, ones who had secretly joined the rebellion but were still registered as loyal in assembly systems. The plan was audacious, perhaps impossible, but those were the kinds of plans humans specialized in. Admiral Maya Rodriguez, still bearing scars from Proxima, coordinated the larger fleet gathering at predetermined points throughout assembly space. The moment Sarah's team activated the protocol disruptor, every rebel ship would launch simultaneous attacks. The assembly would face revolution on all fronts. Their cruiser docked at Terminus' primary military port. Sarah and her team, disguised as maintenance workers, passed through multiple security checkpoints. The assembly's arrogance worked in their favor. They never imagined anyone would dare infiltrate their headquarters. Central control is 20 levels down. Kyrax whispered through their secure comm channel. The primary broadcast node is there. They reached the maintenance tunnels without incident. Dr. Park's equipment, disguised as standard repair gear, drew no attention. But as they approached the central control level, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Intruder alert in Section 7. An automated voice announced, "All security forces deploy." "That's not us," Sarah realized. "Someone else is here." The answer came in the form of plasma fire erupting from a side corridor. A squad of beings in stealth armor emerged, their weapons targeting assembly security forces. Their leader pulled off her helmet, revealing features Sarah recognized from intelligence briefings. Captain Lin Zhao of Earth's Special Operations. "Looks like Earth Command had the same idea," Lin said with a grim smile. "We've been planning this hit for months. The assembly's distracted by your attack," Sarah said. "We have Dr. Park's protocol disruptor. Together, we can end this war." Lin nodded to her team. "Let's crash their party." The combined strike teams fought their way towards central control. Assembly security found themselves caught between two forces using very different but equally lethal combat styles. Lin's team executed precision strikes with military efficiency, while Sarah's group employed the adaptive chaos that had proven so effective in space. They reached the broadcast center to find it already under attack by assembly officers themselves. Some had begun to question their leader's brutality. Seeing humans willing to die for others' freedom had sparked something in them. "The assembly lied to us all," declared Commander Ven, an assembly officer who had turned his weapons against his former masters. "They claim to protect order, but they protect only their own power." With the broadcast center secured, Dr. Park began setting up her equipment. "The disruptor will take 10 minutes to synchronize with their network," she explained. "We'll need to hold this position." Those 10 minutes became an eternity. Assembly reinforcements poured in from all directions. The rebels fought with desperate courage, human and alien alike falling to defend their position. Sarah found herself back-to-back with Lin, their weapons blazing as waves of security forces charged their position. 5 minutes, Dr. Park called. Commander Ven fell, taking a blast meant for Kirax. More assembly officers joined the rebels, their sense of honor overcoming their conditioning. 2 minutes. Sarah took a grazing hit to her shoulder but kept firing. Lin's team set explosive charges to collapse access corridors, buying precious seconds. 30 seconds. The Assembly's Supreme Council appeared on every screen, ordering their forces to destroy the broadcast center at any cost. They knew their reign was about to end. Broadcasting now. Dr. Park's signal pulsed through the Assembly's own network. Across the galaxy, billions of beings felt the neural chains of the compliance protocol shatter. The Assembly's greatest weapon became their undoing. The effect was immediate. Security forces dropped their weapons as years of conditioning evaporated. Assembly ships across the galaxy turned on their commanders. The rebellion's coordinated strikes met minimal resistance as countless beings chose freedom. But in Terminus Broadcast Center, Sarah knew the fight wasn't over. The Assembly's leadership was still at large, and they had one final weapon, one that could end not just the rebellion, but every species that had dared to resist. Deep within Terminus, the Assembly's Supreme Council activated their final contingency. Ancient engines hummed to life beneath the planet's surface. The fortress world itself was a weapon, built to unleash a cascade of destructive energy through the hyperspace network. "If we fall, all will fall," Supreme Counselor Vex broadcast across all frequencies. "This was our destiny, to rule or to end everything." Sarah's strike team raced through collapsing corridors, following Kyrax's directions to the planetary core. Maya's fleet engaged the remaining loyal assembly ships above, buying them time. Every second brought the weapon closer to activation. "They're insane," Lin said as they fought through automated defenses. "They'll destroy the hyperspace lanes themselves. Entire systems will be cut off. Millions will die from lack of resources." "They never saw us as equals," Kyrax replied. "To them, we were all just tools to be used or discarded." The core chamber was a vast spherical space, dominated by crystalline structures pulsing with impossible energies. Dr. Park's analysis confirmed their worst fears. The weapon was already building toward critical mass. "We can't shut it down remotely," she reported. "The controls are genetically locked to pure assembly DNA." Sarah looked at their team, humans and aliens fighting together, former enemies now united. An idea formed. "They think DNA determines destiny," she said. "Let's prove them wrong." "Dr. Park, can you modify the containment field to recognize a different pattern? Not assembly DNA, but the pattern of cooperation itself." The scientist's eyes widened. "The quantum resonance of multiple species working in harmony. Yes, theoretically. But it would take perfect synchronization. Then it's a good thing humans excel at improvising together." Sarah turned to the team. "Like jazz, remember? We make the framework, but every individual adds their own part to create something greater." As assembly forces breached their defenses, the combined rebel team linked their minds and bodies through Dr. Park's modified neural interfaces. Human determination met alien wisdom. Individual strengths flowed together, forming a harmony the assembly's rigid hierarchy could never achieve. The containment field recognized this new pattern, not of dominance, but of voluntary unity. The weapon's energy shifted, turned, and finally collapsed in upon itself. Terminus shuddered as its ancient engines went dark. Supreme Counselor Vex and his inner circle were found in their chambers, having chosen death over surrender. But across the galaxy, the Assembly's reign of terror was ending. Freed from the compliance protocol, countless species embraced their new independence. In the aftermath, Sarah stood with Maya and Lynn on the Defiance observation deck, watching ships of every species working together to rebuild. "The Assembly feared our differences would make us weak," Sarah said. "They never understood that diversity makes us stronger. Humans didn't win this war. Cooperation did." Maya smiled. Though human stubbornness certainly helped. The Galactic Alliance that rose from the Assembly's ashes was founded on principles of mutual respect and voluntary association. Earth's diplomatic corps, led by Sarah, helped forge new connections between previously isolated species. The Alliance's first major project was restoring the damaged hyperspace network, with human engineers working alongside alien scientists to develop new technologies. Kirax, appointed to the new Alliance Council, often cited the human concept of jazz when explaining their governance philosophy to other species. "Like the music," he would say, "we provide a structure where everyone can contribute their unique voice." The result is sometimes chaotic, often surprising, but always stronger than enforced harmony. The Assembly's fortress world was transformed into a center of learning, where species could share knowledge freely. In its great hall, a simple plaque bore words from Sarah's first speech to the Alliance. "The universe is vast and often dangerous, but when we stand together, respecting our differences while celebrating our common dreams, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. The future belongs not to those who would rule, but to those who choose to cooperate." Years later, when new species made first contact with the Alliance, they found not an empire built on control, but a community founded on choice. And at diplomatic functions, one could often hear the sound of human jazz playing softly in the background. A reminder that the greatest strength lies not in rigid order, but in the beautiful complexity of beings choosing to work together in harmony.